This is a presentation about the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. It is presented by Nick Doninger, Franck, and Garrett. The mitochondria can be found in the cytoplasm of nearly all eukaryotic cells. The mitochondrion, an organelle that helps produce energy for the cell, is only found in eukaryotes, which are organisms with relatively large complex cells. These eukaryotes contrast with prokaryotes, which lack membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria. Mitochondria vary considerably in shape and size, but they all have the same basic architecture. There is a smooth outer membrane surrounding a very convoluted inner membrane. The convolutions form recognizable structures called cristae. The two membranes have very different properties. Together, they create two compartments, namely the inner membrane space, which is the compartment between the membranes, and the matrix, which is the very interior of the mitochondria.
Now I'm going to talk about the chemical reactions of mitochondria. And there are four main parts to cellular respiration, and they are glycolysis, pyruvate oxidation, the citric acid cycle, aka the Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. And I'm going to start with glycolysis, and this is the breakdown of glucose into two 3-carbon molecules, which are pyruvates, and this occurs in the cytosol. And on the left is an image of a glucose molecule, and on the right is the reaction for glycolysis. The next step in the process is pyruvate oxidation, and the pyruvate is converted into acetyl coenzyme A and carbon dioxide, and this occurs in the mitochondrion, and there's the image of the molecule of pyruvate on the left and the reaction on the right. After this is the Krebs cycle, and the pyruvates are further broken down into carbon dioxide, and this also occurs in the mitochondrion, and on the left is the image of the molecule acetyl coenzyme A, and the reaction for the Krebs cycle is on the right. This is another molecule that is important in the process. This is NADH, which stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Another important molecule to know is FADH, which stands for flavin adenine dinucleotide. At this point in the process, only 4 ATP or GTP have been produced, but the real ATP production occurs in the next step, which is oxidative phosphorylation, and this is the transfer of electrons from NADH and FADH2 to O2 by a electron carrier, which produces between 26 to 30 molecules of ATP. This image right here is a very quick and simple overview of the process. First of all, there is glycolysis, and then the citric acid cycle, and they produce a little ATP and a little GTP, and then there is oxidative phosphorylation, which produces a lot of ATP.
In this diagram, you can see the locations of mitochondria within a typical animal cell. As you can see, there is oftentimes more than just one in any given cell. This is a computer-generated model of a typical mitochondrion. In this model, you can see the membranes, both outer and inner. You can see the cristae, which are the folds, and then you can see the matrix. This is a great example of what the structure of a mitochondrion would look like inside of a cell, and is pretty exemplary of what you could expect to see under a microscope. In both of these pictures, you can see what a mitochondrion looks like under a microscope. In the picture on the left, the microscope picture is also placed next to a diagram which has on it all the locations of the different parts of the organelle. And on the right, you can see the mitochondrion under the microscope, along with detailed pictures of the different structures and the approximate size of the structures in a cell. This diagram represents a very important theory in mitochondrion development. This represents the endosymbiotic theory, which is a theory that says both mitochondria and chloroplasts could have come from single-cell bacterium, and these invaded the cell as the cell was beginning to form billions of years ago at the beginning of life. And as the cell began to develop, the products created by the mitochondria and the chloroplasts, the mitochondria are red in this diagram, were seen as beneficial to the cell and helped the cell to continue to develop and reproduce. And that is a basic summation of the diagram and the endosymbiotic theory.